Hi everyone, thank you all for coming. Yeah, this is my first time in a big conference like JSConf, even as a speaker, so guys, this is amazing, this is beautiful, like, whew, let's start. So, I'm Sandrina, I came from Portugal, where I work at Farfetch as a UI developer. Besides that, from design to front end, I'm a web lover, and today I'm here to share with you how you can improve your CSS mixins with JavaScript. So, I know what you are thinking. Oh, CSSConf was yesterday, now it's all about JavaScript. Well, guess what? I'm going to talk about both CSS and JavaScript. But before starting, let me know, is anyone here that doesn't know anything about CSS? Anything? No one? Great, perfect. So, how many of you are users to tools like SAS or less? Ooh, quite a lot, okay. What about post-CSS? Half, okay. What about the new wave of CSS in GS, like style components or glamorous? Some of you, okay. Whatever the tool we use, we've been using them because CSS doesn't have logic, right? You just write a class, give it some rules, and you hope that it works. The good part about tools like SAS or post-CSS is that allow us to write some logic. Here we have a for loop where you increment the ninja level from 1 to 10, and the higher the level, the faster the animation will be. Another thing that you can do is add conditionals. So if the ninja level is 10, it will be invisible, otherwise it will take some time. Does it make sense? No, but I hope you get the idea, okay? Another thing that you can do is add some mixins. I will talk more about them later. So all of this logic is really cool, until at the end of the day, you will end up with something like this. Let me describe this for you. You have a mixin that has a each. After 15 lines of code, you have an include. Inside that include, and after another 50 lines of code, you have a for with a if, with some class, a class with some variables, and another include. And after that, I don't care. I really don't care. This is not CSS. It can't be. Like, do you know what we call this? This is spaghetti code. This is unreadable code. Like, I look at this, and it's like, can't we simplify this? I wish I could handle all of this logic with JavaScript. And let me tell you, if you are not the guy who is writing this, someone else is doing that for you. These are the most popular post-CSS plugins that allow us to write logic in CSS, like mixins, functions, conditionals, whatever. And at the end of the month, it's more than 500,000 of downloads. That's a lot of logic that you wish you could use JavaScript. And to do that, you need to use post-CSS. Why post-CSS? Well, post-CSS is really fast compared to SAS, because it's built with JavaScript, and SAS is built with Ruby. Then, it's modular, so it's easy to contribute, like writing a plugin. With those plugins, you have access to features that are impossible with SAS. And last but not least, it's really simple to start, to set up in any project with Webpack or Gulp or whatever. So, before jumping to JavaScript, let me quickly explain how a mixin works with CSS, in this case with post-CSS. So, you define a mixin, and you give it a name, size. Then a mixin can have arguments like a function in JavaScript. Let's give it a value. Inside a mixin, you can have whatever logic you want, but in this case, let's keep it simple. A width and a height rule with the same value. That's it. To use a mixin, you'll need to write @mixin, the name of the mixin, size, and give it a value, 20 pixels. After that, post-CSS mixins will do all the magic, and you will end up with a width and a height of 20 pixels. That's it. This is all you need to know about CSS to follow the rest of my talk. Now, with JavaScript, it's pretty the same, but with a function. But there is one main difference. The mixin name is a file name. In this case, size.js. The mixin name will be size. Another difference is the first argument is a mixin node. Mixin node is created by post-CSS, and with that you can have access to the context of the mixin. But We don't need that in this example, so you just need to know that it's used by PostCSS. Then you pass the rest of the arguments, in this case a value. Then to return the CSS, you return as an object, a width and a height of the same value. Pretty simple, pretty similar to CSS. Now, the only thing missing is to connect this mixin to the CSS files. To do that, you'll need to update the PostCSS configuration file. That file is where you have all your plugins. One of them is the PostCSS mixins. PostCSS mixins has an option called mixins directory, where you pass the folder that has all your mixins. That's it. Now, back to the CSS file, you just need to call the mixin. It's a global mixin, so you don't even need to import the mixin. And all the logic behind that mixin is handled by JavaScript. How cool is that? This is something new. Now, what can you do with logic that you can't in CSS? What happens to logic in JavaScript? Let's be honest here, guys. How many of you write unit tests, JavaScript unit tests? Oh, okay. Okay. Is anyone here that doesn't write unit tests in JavaScript? Don't be shy, come on, it's okay. Come on, no one? Okay, some of you, okay, up there, okay. Is anyone here that doesn't care at all about tests? I saw you, and I understand you. I swear I do. I know why you don't write tests. You don't write tests, and you don't care about tests, because your code is so perfect, so simple, doesn't need to be tested, right? What could be wrong? Or maybe, just maybe, your code is so complex, it's like, come on, it works on my machine. Don't touch it. It will work on next Monday, okay? Well, let me tell you my story. 1 year ago, more or less, I didn't care about tests. Come on, like, I didn't care because I didn't understand them. But when I found myself writing the same code over and over again, I understood. I understood that writing tests force you to simplify your code, and that's not easy. When you write tests, you need to know exactly what to code, what to do. And when you know what to do, you do less. And when you do less, you can do better. So in your next project, don't forget about tests. They will improve you. They will improve your code. And even if you don't know how to test, you can start today by testing a CSS mixin with JavaScript. So let's do it. How does a test work? A test is simple as you expect something to match an output. So let's see how we test the size mixin. You start by importing the size. Then you have a test function. Here I'm using Jest. Jest is a test framework built by Facebook, but you can use whatever you want. Then in your test function, you give it a description. Size returns a width and a height. Then you expect the size that receives a mixin node and a value to equal to an output. Remember the mixin node used by PostCSS that we don't need it? Null. Then you pass a value, 24 pixels. And then you just need to write the expected output, an object with a width and a height of 24 pixels. After that, you just need to run the test, see a green check mark, and be happy. You don't need to worry about this mixin anymore, because it's tested. You have CSS logic tested with JavaScript. So until at the end of the day, you can enjoy the rest of the day. How cool is that? It's really cool. Now, I think it's great that we have these tools that allow us to create these small improvements in our CSS, because we like to improve, we like to evolve, and that's how web evolution works. Not really. Let me tell you how web evolution really works. Ready? You are laughing, but this is not fun. Waiting for W3C to approve a feature, and then all browsers to support it, so we can use that feature. This is a pain. This is a pain. So, My question is where is our CSS mixin in this process? Where is the size mixin? Well, it's not here. It's not here because we don't like to wait. We don't like to wait for a web evolution. It's too slow. So what we do, we create a web revolution. Nowadays, almost every project has one of these tools. That's how web revolution works. We like to create, we like to evolve, we like to be one step ahead. And our web revolution works like that. You create something, we share it, so people can see how amazing is that, or not. And you use it until the day it gets approved. And this is what we are doing with our mixin. We are already created. What about sharing? You have your mixins folder full of mixins that improves your project workflow. What about the others? Maybe there is someone else that needs exactly the same mixin as you. You could share it. So how can you share this? I'm talking about mixins for almost 15 minutes, and there is something that I have to confess you. There is one thing that I don't like about mixins. The problem with mixins is that when you have a lot of mixins, you have mixins everywhere. So, what if I tell you that you can simplify even more this mixin? Instead of writing at mixin size 20 pixels, you could just write size 20 pixels. It looks simpler, official, doesn't it? It could be one day, who knows? And this is one of the things that I most like about PostCSS. It allows us to create custom CSS. In this case, we are creating a custom property. And to do this, you need to write a PostCSS plugin. So let's do it. To help you, there is a PostCSS plugin boilerplate on GitHub, and we'll use them. We'll use it in this talk. So, first of all, you need to import PostCSS to have access to the PostCSS API. After that, you'll create a PostCSS plugin. Let's give it a name, PostCSS size. Then, you'll have an initializer. The initializer is a callback function that gives you access to the CSS itself in a parsed node, like an AST. With that, you are ready to transform the CSS with JavaScript. This is what you have on the boilerplate. So, before starting to actually write some code, let me see if it's working. To see if this plugin works, I need to set up a new project with PostCSS. After that, I need to update the PostCSS configuration, adding the PostCSS size plugin. Then, let's write some CSS that uses that plugin. And then, you'll refresh the page while you code until it works. Doesn't feel right, doesn't it? Sorry to say this, but no. There are better ways than doing this. This is not how you should test your code. Like, I'm talking about CSS mixins, but we all do this in our daily basis, don't we? So, there are better ways, faster ways to test a PostCSS plugin or your code. So instead of having a refresh-driven development, we can have a test-driven development, also known as TDD, where you start by writing the tests and then write the code needed to make those tests pass. So let's write our test to this plugin. So you start by importing the plugin and the PostCSS. Then you have a run function. This is what you have on the boilerplate. You can see a run function, the run function, like a utility function that saves you from writing expect something to match an output. In this case, you are expecting that the PostCSS process result to match the expected output. It might sound hard to understand, but you'll understand that. After that, you have a test function with a description, and then you call the run function, where you give it an input and an output. So if you write a class foo with a size 1 pixel, then you are expecting the foo with a width and a height of 1 pixel. That's it. And if you run the test now, it will fail. So let's make it pass. Back to our PostCSS plugin code. The first thing that you need to do is to look for the size property in your CSS To do that, you use the UUl declaration method that you can filter by property, in this case, a size. When you have a match, you'll have access to the declaration itself. And with that, you just need to do two things: to get the size value and add the width and height properties. The size value is simple as declaration.value. Then to add the width and height properties, you use clone before, where you pass an object with a property and a value. Now, let me see if it works. We have a class, a square class with a size 80 pixels and a red background. Is anyone here that thinks that this will not work? I believe it works. I mean, my code is perfect, right? Of course it works. Come on. Now, if it works on the browser, it will work on the test. Yes? No? No? Of course it works. What? A second. Oh, it doesn't work. My code is not perfect anymore. So we are expecting the width and height of 1 pixel, but we also receive the size, 1 pixel. There is two problems here. CSS arrows on the browser are silent, so you will not see size is not defined on the console. Besides that, and worse than that, with this, you are having more code that you expect on your production file, and that's not good. So in this case, unit tests help us. And because in this case, we forgot to remove the size property. So to remove the size property, it's simple as declaration.remove. That's it. Now, if you run the test again, it will pass. Simple as that. This is all you need to write a post-CSS plugin, less than 10 lines of code. How simple is that? And with that, what can you do with a size 80 pixels that we couldn't do with the mixin? You can publish it. You can share it. So from your project, you can level up to another project and share it with everyone. Actually, this plugin already exists. It's called post-CSS short size. And you can have more logic than just having a value. You can have a second value, a width and a height. You can have proportional values. And if you have a size, you can have a min size, and of course, a max size. There are a lot of really good post-CSS plugins, like CSS Next allow us to write CSS4. It's like Babel for JavaScript. You have RTL CSS that transforms the left to right from right to left direction, and you have post-CSS Short. Post-CSS Short is a group of small plugins, like post-CSS Short Size, that allow us to have shorthand properties in CSS. And you can check much more plugins. Now, so far my talk is all about GS in CSS instead of CSS in GS. But you can also apply this @mixins concept with CSS in GS tools. Let's see with Glamorous. With Glamorous, we write the CSS in an object. So to use a size function, in this case, you can use the spread operator to get the value. With style components, it's pretty the same, but instead of an object, it's a template literal, where you need to use the placeholder, the dollar with the brackets, and that's it. So whatever the tool you use, you can improve your CSS. Let me say something here. I'm not saying that CSS mixins are bad. They can do what they can do. If you have your small project, yeah, you can use CSS mixins. That's okay. But if you have bigger projects where you need to feel safer about your code, you can use JavaScript to help you. You can test your code. You can test your CSS logic. That's really nice. So a quick recap. How can JavaScript improve your CSS mixins? So say no more to weird Sass syntax and spaghetti code and all of that. You can enjoy JavaScript, ES6, AST, whatever you want. You have a full power under your CSS. For the first time, you can test your CSS logic. And this is really cool. This is what I like most. And if your mixin is really nice, you can share it with the web. And that's why I came here today, because I found something that improved my workflow. And I believe that might improve yours as well, because sharing is what makes us better. Thank you.